So Mike, you've got a lot of dynasty teams. I'm sure at least one of them is 0-3.
Oh yeah.
How do you know when it's time to just hit the sell button, rebuild? Like just because you're 0-3, does that mean that you must sell, or what are some symptoms of, oh, I have to rebuild?
I ideally for me anyways, I wanted to make that decision before the season even started. Like I was already leaning that direction. Best case scenario, this pushed you over the top where you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a long shot now. There are some teams though, and these are the tougher ones for people where they're like, oh, I might have been a playoff team or I might have been pretty decent, and you're sitting here at 0-3. You got to do a deep roster evaluation. Like, why am I 0-3? Am I 0-3 because, I was missing a quarterback week one? I was missing my star wide receiver week two. Am I down a running back who's coming back off IR at some point? Did I hit the tight end landmine? Did I build my team around tight ends thinking that this tight end premium league, these guys were going to carry me? If that's the case, like, some of those you can justify. Some of them you can tell yourself the story. You just have to really start mentally preparing yourself for what happens this week. If I'm 0-4 and there's still no signs of life, the odds of me making the playoffs in a 14 game schedule being 0-4 have just gone in the toilet. Like they really have. You could be the eternal optimist all you want, but listen, there's definitely something to rebuild. There's something to rebuilding that if you're the first one to the table just to wave the white flag, you have access to all the other optimists out there who haven't decided to go, oh, my team really is junk. So you kind of want to be first to the party. You don't want to be the last one to the party while everybody else is out there selling off pieces and teams are starting to decide that no, I don't want your old guys. I don't want to take on Christian McCaffrey. I don't want to take on that kind of risk. I don't want the Devontae Adams of the world. I don't want to take Travis Kelsey, who's probably going to be a zero for most people next year or in the very near future. So getting first to the party, like sitting down and having that evaluation of your team and being honest with yourself is pretty damn important, especially if you're sitting at 0-3 right now. And I'd put in contention if you're sitting at 1-2, you should start having those talks too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's obviously not word for word, but the sentiment is essentially what I had prepared as well. It's really just, it comes down to knowing yourself, knowing your team, knowing your league mates too. So it's one thing to, it's one level to analyze your own team and kind of figure out where you stand, but kind of like Mike mentioned, like, are there other optimists around? And I don't know if you're in compete mode in Dynasty, if there's ever truly a time where you really want to fully punt and get rid of assets that may help you out next year, but you should be playing that long-term game now, for next season, saying, okay, I got Travis Kelsey on my team. Like, is it really worth it to stash him next year to try and chase this championship? Probably not. Like, Kelsey's probably an asset I'm going to move off of. Other veterans, like a DJ Moore, I'm not necessarily going to ship off. The market's not quite right. So there's a lot of contextual factors that can really dull in a podcast answer. But I'm never really in favor as a competitor of shipping off all my veterans and going full sell, like truly punting on a season. But right now is when I'm really having the conversations and trying to figure out over the next 3 weeks, what do I want to do? What's my urgency level? Who am I looking to shop, etc.
Yeah, I like how you said, looking for those optimists, looking for those players who are like 3-0, who maybe shouldn't be, and say, hey, do you want a veteran that can help your championship run? Because it is a 14-week season, but a lot can change in a few weeks too. So I that's one of my favorite things to do, is look for the team that's, maybe it's not as good as it should be, and seeing if I can get some rookie picks off of them. But everything you guys said, I completely agree with, in terms of when it's time to sell.